Hello, hello, and this is the DAV Podcast, and as always, I'm Matt Saintsing here. On today's episode, we're talking all about entrepreneurship. Veterans, they love to lean in that foxhole, take the initiative, and that can translate over to success in business. And to help foster some veteran entrepreneurs, DAV has Patriot Boot Camp, which is almost like an accelerator. And as the name suggests, we have boot camps all over the country, really, and they involve veteran entrepreneurs coming together, sharing ideas, oftentimes with a mentor that can really put them on the fast track to being successful entrepreneurs. And today is a conversation that my colleague and Patriot Boot Camp director, Nick Brophy, has with Kristin Sargeant of Sargent Initiatives, which love the name already. They go into all about how she would join the Army and how she decided she wanted to start a business and how Patriot Boot Camp really helps her get to the next level and beyond. If you want to know a little bit more about Patriot Boot Camp, you can go to patriotbootcamp.org. But let's not waste any more time. Here's Nick Brophy with Kristin Sargeant.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Nick Brophy, the director of DAV Patriot Boot Camp. Today, we're here with Kristin Sargeant of Sargent Initiatives, an entrepreneur who mentors with our program. We're really happy to have her. She's a really awesome, kick-ass Army veteran, works in the defense tech space, and want to welcome her to our podcast. Kristin, how are you today?
I'm great, Nick. Thanks so much for that amazing introduction.
You're welcome. So, today we really just want to know about you and about your experiences in the military, your experiences as an entrepreneur, and frankly, whatever else you want to share. So with that in mind, can you share a little bit about your journey, like how you got in the military, what your service looked like, and then how in the heck did you end up transitioning down the path, and how many years into becoming a tech defense entrepreneur?
Yeah, gosh, thank you so much for asking that question. My journey was interesting. I took an Army ROTC scholarship to pay for college. I couldn't have otherwise afforded the school I wanted to go to, and kind of went in not really knowing what I was signing up for. But by the time I was a senior, I loved the mission. I loved the ROTC cadets I was working with, and 9/11 happened fall of my senior year. So the world became a very different place. And I realized right then and there, my role in it is going to change, and this isn't a coincidence. And so I actually chose to go combat arms, and in not to date myself, but when I went in, the only combat arms branch available to women really was air defense. And so I became an air defense artillery officer for the Patriot missile system, which of course is in the news today, with everything happening in Ukraine. So went in and quickly just got steeped in mission and the joy really that you feel when you're providing for something that's much bigger than you. And in my last role, I was thrust into being my battalion's information management officer with zero training. There was no reason other than just randomness that I was selected. And it meant that I had to go and pick up a CD and then manually install on all of these desktops across my unit firewall updates. And I remember doing this and thinking, oh my gosh, this is how we are going to lose the war. Like, this is literally unacceptable. And so, I looked to transition out of the military at that point because I thought I can actually be a bigger part of the solution if I'm within industry. And so I spent my career first at Booz Allen Hamilton managing cybersecurity programs and really helping the government get the best blend of people and technology, and then at Amazon Web Services. And so I saw best practices across services and product companies, and then most recently at a startup. And what I'm watching right now is all of these different types of companies struggle unnecessarily with really maximizing their resources to do better in selling and delivering to the defense sector. And so with that, I started my own business so I could focus all of my time and energy just on solving that problem.
So you mean to tell me that it took you not much time to realize that we're going to lose the war based on our lack of technology or lack of security in the military? Because it took me 23 years to realize that. It sounds like it took you a lot less time.
Well, it's funny. Nick, it's all related to sort of the experiences you're given. And I remember, like, let's be clear, I hated being my battalion's information management officer. It was so much extra work. And the way the whole process was structured is it wasn't my full-time job. And so I was still completely fulfilling my mission role and then doing that on the side. And so just that alone, right? Information security is paramount. It demands attention and skilled attention. And so I just remember thinking, like, we have to do so much better than this, and then have spent my career kind of towing that line to figure out how to continuously do that.
So it sounds like we have a similarity here, where my reason for getting in the military was like, oh man, I didn't have money for college. It sounds like that's your initial motivation, right? Like, I have no money for school. How am I going to do this? Oh, I've got this opportunity to do it. Is that true?
Well, yeah. And again, right? Like, again, not to date myself, but in 1998, when I was looking to go to college, like, the world was so different. That was before 9/11. It was before Columbine. It was just so much more idyllic, is the best word I can think of. And so I didn't think about my family being in danger. I didn't think about the world being in danger. I mean, my sophomore year in college, I remember an English professor saying, hey, does everyone here know what Google is? And I didn't. And so, right, like, when you just place it historically and contextually, then signing up for the military when you're completely ignorant, really, of the realities of what's happening globally, and you feel safe all the time, no matter where you are in America, yeah, I'll sign up for the military all day, every day. And I literally got in thinking I wouldn't need to fire a bullet. But yeah, it was definitely a shortcut for me to pay for college. But then it became a very different thing, because by the end of college, Columbine had happened and 9/11 had happened. And so, I just got ready and put my big girl pants on and got to work.
It's so true what you're saying. For, if anyone was listening to this who is, I don't know, under the age of 30, perhaps, they'll think, man, what is 9/11? What was the impact of 9/11? I'm a pre 9/11 veteran myself. I enlisted in September 2000. Yeah, I'm starting to forget now. And, and, graduated from basic training in May of 01. So here comes September of 01.
Yep.
Totally different world. And you're right. I mean, just everything was so different. And it's interesting to think about that now. Of course, post-military career, it's like, looking back, is like, whoa, this is a different world, but a world enriched with opportunities. And it's kind of, when I think about your journey, and I think about where you're at, and, obviously you went to the military for an avenue to pay for school or whatever the case is. Well, that was the byproduct of getting it paid for. How do you think your experiences in the Army influenced your approach to business and leadership in your industry, or just, whether that's day to day or macro scale, micro scale?
I think the military, it forces you to be fearless. It forces you to routinely get outside of your comfort zone. And every day owning my own business, I have to do that. And I would say also the discipline the military gives you have to have as an entrepreneur. The truth that I don't think most entrepreneurs tell you is that every day I wake up, I have complete freedom to decide I'm just going to sleep and watch Netflix all day. Like, I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't, right? Because I was in the military, I wake up at 6:05 every morning. I work out first thing because my mind has to be right. I then meditate. I then journal. I eat. I shower. And then I start my day. So I am a different kind of animal starting my day after having done that morning routine. And I wouldn't have that without the military discipline I was given. And so I think the military kind of gives you the atomic habits. If you've read that book by James Clear, it absolutely gives you the atomic habits that entrepreneurs generally need to have to just maintain the right pacing and go the distance for when hard things pop up and you have to adapt.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, the routine, everyone has their own routine. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I always talk about mindset, like having this, like, everyone wants to be their own business owner. Everybody wants to have a company and be, rich or whatever. Well, everybody has a problem that they think they can solve. But it really boils down to mindset. Like, are you in the right mind? And how tough, on a day-to-day basis, how tough is it just to keep the mindset? And what are some of the ways that you mentioned some of them already, but what are some other things that you get involved in that kind of help you keep your mind right, or that give you the motivation to like fall back on knowing that you're doing the right thing?
Yeah, great. It's such a great question. So first and foremost, Nick, I've invested a lot in my mental health, right? I have been seeing a psychologist for over a year to work on the very questions that I was battling with, just even to get to the decision of starting my own business. I invest and talk to a leadership coach every week who helps me work through different issues because we all question things about ourselves or about the situation we're in. And so I make very intentional investments in having outside support that is keeping my mind strong. And I think you're exactly right. Mindset is paramount to an entrepreneur being successful. So if my business rests on me having a strong mindset, then I actually need to invest time and money and resources into my mind being just that. And so I do. And I surround myself with great people so that I can go the distance.
Yeah, not that I expected anything different. I think it's important to reflect on it too, and think about the challenges that you've overcome, or celebrating successes. And that's kind of like that's another question I have: is how do you define success when it comes to the business, and how do you celebrate some of your successes, whether they're big or small?
Oh, I love this question, Nick. So first of all, I think success is all about mindset, right? Two people can experience the same thing. And if you have the right mindset, one will view that experience as a success and the other will as a failure.
Right.
And so I start from the mindset that there literally is no such thing as failure. You can only learn. So every single day, I actually end my day by journaling. And I picked this tip up from one of my leadership coaches. And so he said, every single day on one sheet of paper, write down, number one, the wins for the day, right? And these can be small. It can be someone liked my LinkedIn post. Yesterday, my win was literally my accountant filed my business taxes, right? Because that's been weighing on me. And that's a win for me right now.
Yeah.
And so, right. So you've got to celebrate these small things. And so when you have that mindset that even the small things are wins, those small wins pile up over time and you can really see progress and they become big. And so I celebrate them literally every day by writing them down. And then second, like when I won my first customer contract, what was interesting is I immediately went into, okay, the next steps are, and what I have to do next is, and getting ready for delivery. Like I didn't even pause to reflect on how much work and what I had done to get to that point. And it was so exciting. It was something I had wanted for so long, and it legitimized me in a way that felt so exhilarating. And so right now, what I'm actually working on is not things like buying myself a present or going out to dinner or anything like that. It's literally just plain stopping and appreciating the magnitude of bigger wins like that. And that's the hardest part for me personally.
Slowing down.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Because, we all are really great at, examining, oh, I sucked at this or I failed at this. But stopping and pausing and relishing in those wins, it's really hard to do. It takes practice. And so that's part of why I meditate and journal, and you got to enjoy those wins fully.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of outlets too to kind of, whether that's centering your own chi, if you will, or, starting your day off on the right foot, or if it's to celebrate a small victory. It sounds like you have plenty of outlets in your personal life and people that are, do you surround yourself with people who you believe are better than you, or people that, a large mentor group or other business owners? What is your friend composition, your friend group composition look like?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's interesting you asked that, because I'm currently in an entrepreneurs group that's been great to this point. And I'm starting to feel that I'm becoming more of a teacher and less of a student. So I already know it's time for me to grow into the next group or the next set of people that are going to push me in ways that help both me and my business get better. And so I have to spend time and energy looking for that next phase or that next coach. And I haven't done that yet. I can just sense that I need to in the near term. But I think that's a part of this whole process is recognizing, and you can just feel it, right? You can feel it in conversations you have that you're answering more questions and asking them. And so I've just gotten to that point with this group, and I have to intentionally shift my time towards spending more time with people that are going to push me in better directions based on how far I've come already. But yeah, that's a constant moving thing. But while I also have just the unbelievable support of long-tested, tried and true relationships. And I could not do this without my partner. I don't know how entrepreneurs that don't have a supportive partner do it, candidly, because he has to be there to support me. I'm taking a totally different financial risk that affects us and the lives we live. You know, I need him to cook dinner because I forget to if I'm plugging away at something at night. And so having a supportive partner in all of this has been absolutely critical. And I'm so blessed to now have one and to just be able to, you know, have that as a support and then recognize, because I have that as a support, I need to invest time back into him as well. And so that's, of course, a priority. And, you know, I try to do that as a part of building my own business and building the life I want long term.
Yeah, that's so important. When I used to have to stand in front of all my troops, and you know, we talk about obviously their involvement in their mission, right? But you cannot do it without a partner. If you have someone at home, they're equally, if not more, part of the equation than you yourself even are. And I talk about this all the time. I mean, it's such a critical component. You go back in history and you look at all the leaders, whatever you define leader as, you look at all the great leaders out there, all the great business professionals. I mean, there's always someone that is behind the scenes helping them, even if it's just little things. It's such a critical thing. I think it's important for us to recognize, like the military spouse out there, for people who are still serving and their spouses, whether you're male or female or whatever it is that you are, we appreciate you. I think it's worth saying that it's really important to have someone out there that helps you keep your shit together, for a lack of a better term. I mean, let's be honest, right?
100%.
Yeah. It's you're right. I mean, when you think about the mindset, we've talked about mindset, talked about having the intestinal fortitude to get up every day. And in your case, I mean, you have a pretty regimented way to get your day started that puts you on the right path, the right mindset, the right, you know, energy, whatever. And just imagine if there wasn't, like, all the little things you mentioned, like cooking dinner. I mean, we all have to eat. That we don't have to cook dinner, but that's an important little thing. Or doing laundry, or getting oil changes, and all those little things from day to day that still have to get done. Grass cut, whatever. And those little things add up. And doing all that by yourself, in addition to keeping this entrepreneur mindset, you know, and looking at things optimistically, what a weight to bear that can be. You agree?
Yes. I mean, it can be a weight to bear. It can also be a joy. I find that when my day is crowded with tasks, I'm way more efficient at allocating my time and executing what needs to get done. And when I have tons of time and no real strains on it, man, do I stretch it out. And so, yeah,
everybody in the audience, everybody who's done it would be listening and saying, yes, absolutely.
Like, the more time you give me, the more likely I'm going to be late. That's just how I work. And so, you know, I try not to look at the minutia of adulting as being, right? As being like a hardship. It's just reality. You can't change it. Just get it done.
Yeah.
The key there, especially with being an entrepreneur, is not letting it take up mental real estate and just executing. Just don't think, just execute. And don't think if there's a line at the DMV, don't let it get you riled up. Control the emotions around that. Just do what you got to do to cancel the next meeting and get that task done, and just keep moving forward one step in front of the other. And so that stuff, thankfully, over time, I've gotten better at handling. It used to give me incredible anxiety. I'd get very stressed or angry about it. But as I've gotten older and just practiced and better understood through meditation and just being present, life happens. So better to go with it than against it. You can't fight it. So that's been my approach, and it's helped me enjoy the adulting minutia a lot more.
I love it. It's like you're taking the thoughts out of what I would say out of my own head and putting it out into the universe. I love it. It's like I feel the same exact way. Let me ask you a really different question though.
Okay.
If you had never been introduced, if you had never went to the Army and unfortunately were exposed to a vulnerability that led to this solution that you're now, has now guided your future and your entrepreneurial passion, what do you think you'd be doing? What was your intention to do when you went into college? Like, what do you think you'd be doing if you hadn't done that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, I would not be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't been in the Army, right? The Army forever changes you. And like I just said, like I'm going with that flow of life. I'm just flowing with it because I see life through the lens of having had that experience. But if I hadn't, I actually think I'd be a college professor. My dad is a teacher. My sister's a teacher. As a kid, I used to always stand up. We had like this big boiler, and I would take chalk and I'd draw all over it. And I was very bossy as a really young kid. And so I would sit down all the neighbors and I'd make them listen to my lessons. And so I just always loved teaching. I love presenting. I love just being able to share something that I know or have learned with other people. And so I can see loving doing that in a college setting. I loved college. I just loved it. And so the ability to be in that setting and constantly be around new kids who are coming in and starting at that point in their lives, I would have wanted to be in that capacity and just still be giving back. I think that element of service is just in me. I've never actually been interested in making a ton of money, which might sound crazy as an entrepreneur, but it's not the money that actually is what drives me. It's just a reflection of the value I'm trying to create in the world. And so, yeah, if I wasn't, I think, building my own business or doing something in the defense space, I think I would be teaching at a university.
That's really interesting. I would have imagined the same path for myself similarly.
Really?
But you're right. I mean, I was going to ask you the question about where do you see your company in, like, what is the ultimate goal, the future goal? And it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. I don't know if I like to put time stamps on anything as much as I'd rather just say, what is your ultimate goal for the company? Because I know I had this feeling about you that it's not about money. Just like, a lot of us veterans, that's a similarity that I think a lot of us share, is that really are focused on service. We really are focused on purpose, right? Instead of, we want to make money. Who doesn't want all the things they ever thought they could buy? But is that really the passion? I mean, where do you see the company, whether that means selling it off or whatever, where do you see that in the future, the ultimate goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I see the world is, and especially in terms of our nation's defense, when you look at the training and the resources that we give an active duty service member, it's tremendous. The average Army soldier, they're doing PT routinely, they're getting physicals routinely, they're getting trained on new things, there are incentives for going to school. And so that's just to keep that person physically fit, smart, educated, trained on whatever it is their mission specialty is. Now we're finally smart enough to know that there's a mental health component to this. So there's a lot more stress on making sure that there's routine access to care so that as you're performing within that environment, you are mentally healthy. So we've got hopefully physically healthy people, mentally healthy people doing the work and making the decisions that literally are life and death and have a direct impact on our nation, its defenses, the values we represent globally, the economic ability that we represent globally as a nation. And so that's the people element. Well, companies are just people. And so no one right now is, in my view, looking fully at the health of a company. And they're not doing it with the lens of how the health of a company has to be extra in the national defense space. And what I mean by that is you cannot have, for example, a toxic corporate culture that diminishes minorities, building AI algorithms that are then sold and deployed and used in software in defense. That to me is an unacceptable state of affairs. And today, there's no ability for either the company to proactively check, am I good or not?
Yeah.
Or for a defense customer to say, before I buy this software, is this company good or not? Are they healthy or not? Are they fit? And so that's what I'm building. That's the capability I'm building. That's the assessment I've delivered. And that's where I want to go. I think we're going to, as a society, grow far more desiring of being healthy. We've got we're all walking around with our Apple Watches, looking at our step counts, getting our heart rates, right? We've got all these ways to measure different health metrics, but we need to do that across companies that are creating the life and the society and the tools that we're going to use long term. And when it comes to the Defense Department, that has to be even more prominent, more important. And so I think it's just a matter of time. And I'm just at the very beginning of this. And hopefully, I get to have a global impact in healing that aspect of how people come together in one common goal over time. And so it's maybe a weird way to answer your question, because I don't know if that means I IPO, if that means, right, I become a B corporation or merge and become a part of other companies. I have no idea. And candidly, saying that I knew now would be nonsensical. There's just too many factors at play. But the way I see the world and the way I think the world should operate would have that element of enabling a company to check its own health.
See, I would have never thought about it in that way. That's to me, that's really interesting. I love the analogy, and you're right. I mean, it's something that's probably not discussed, at least not to that degree. So I do like that answer. I mean, it doesn't, and like you said, you don't really know what that means. Does that mean, you go IPO and you sell, or somebody buys you, or you just say, I'm done with this, I'm going to become an advocate for this industry, or whatever the case is? That's an interesting perspective. And I think that's really great. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
If you were, Kristin, and we, for all intents and purposes, new entrepreneurs or people looking to get into entrepreneurship could be listening in the future, what is one piece of advice that you would give to other veterans looking to transition into entrepreneurship? Doesn't even need to be in the tech defense industry, just in general.
Trust your gut. It might sound trite, but it is so hard to do. It is literally, I've spent a year with a leadership coach who specializes in embodiment, because I had overanalyzed life decisions I should make and not followed my gut. And it got me so far down a career path that was not fulfilling for me anymore. When you do that, you're not staying true to yourself, and you can feel it every day. I mean, your body literally takes a hit for that every day. And so the second I started learning and kind of crawling and walking and running back to being able to have a gut instinct that I could use, well, then it's a matter of practicing using it, trusting using it, and then using it when you have to make the most difficult decisions, absent of data, absent of advice, which any entrepreneur is going to find themselves in routinely. And so that is my number one advice. And if you feel like you don't know where your gut instinct is, there are resources out there and there are people out there that specialize in this. But this is an aspect of humanity that, candidly, being attached to our phones and social media and analysis paralysis and the way we move through the world, just plain being on Zoom calls more than in front of people and interacting with people, we've actually physiologically lost a lot of our natural and innate ability to have a gut instinct and to use it regularly. And so entrepreneurs have to find that, cultivate it, practice it, and use it. And that's my number one piece of advice.
Oh, wow. Great. The final, reflections, and we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but I think it's important just to say, you've heard it from Kristin. I mean, a little bit about her journey, a little bit about the why behind what she's doing, the how, a little bit about the how, and, even some stuff about the future and what motivates people and areas of advice. But I will give you this opportunity though, Kristin, if you want to throw out a little bit of a sales pitch about who you are, what your company does, or, your company and what you do.
Yeah, just a little bit of a sales pitch. My company is Sargent Initiatives, Inc., and we are focused on helping technology companies really expand in the defense sector. And our mission is just to remove barriers that prevent companies from delivering technology that the U.S. deems critical to our defense. And so we do that by delivering a proprietary assessment that looks across things a company is mandated to do by defense policy or law versus things that are really important for companies to do based on industry best practices that we've seen, over the course of 20 years and interactions with multiple different companies. And so what that does is just expedite a company's ability to execute well and with efficiencies and understand how to spend their time and resources in the best manner possible to be as fit as possible to go the distance with serving and contributing to the defense mission.
Thanks again, Nick and Kristin, for that interesting conversation and to illuminate possibilities that Patriot Boot Camp can bring to veteran entrepreneurs. It's over 1,100 Patriot Boot Camp alumni have been scaling startups worldwide. We have both in-person and virtual events that happen at various times throughout the year. You can go to patriotbootcamp.org to learn all about the program, to maybe apply, and to donate. I'm Matt Saintsing. Until next time.